All right. Let's get started on this. Your season is over video. Copious notes in that. All right, let's see what's going on here. All right, what do we need to? Let's pull up the scores here. Let's see what we need to talk about today. Auburn lost. Hello? This is him. Yeah, what's up, buddy? What? No. 12 million a year? I might have to say no. Yeah. The Florida job's a dead-end job. Yeah. They're a dead program. I feel like I got something going here with the whole YouTube thing. No, I mean, yeah, it would be interesting. Head coach of Florida, Uncle Lou. Yeah, I'm going to have to say no, bud. All right, Scott. All right, bye. Down bad. Down real bad. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Utah and Texas Tech. Turnover machines. God damn it. Hello? This is him. Yeah, I'm white. Play for Clemson. I'm 47 years old. Oh, man. God almighty, man. They need all the help they can get. All right, let's get back to business here. Holy shit. Colorado won a game. Back to Caden Salter at quarterback again. They got that quarterback hokey pokey up there. Hello? Yes, this is Uncle Lou. Donate to what? United Nations Humanitarian Fund? For what? Yeah, I got a pen. Okay. You need barbed wire, Narcan, bulletproof vests, a needle exchange? Buddy, look, I know you're trying to do good work or whatever, but I've never even been to Memphis, nor would I ever go. I value my life. I'm not donating to some sort of Memphis humanitarian fund. No, it's a third world country. Fuck Memphis. Have a great day. People always with their hand out. Always want something for free. Give us money. Save Memphis. Fuck Memphis. Fuck them right in their front butthole, too. Bunch of people conceive through anal sex up there. I got no interest in that. Fuck them. All right, what else we got here? Yesterday's game. Southern Cal beat Michigan State. They gave up 1,000,000 yards, 1,000,000 points again. Defense still garbage. Hello? Yes, I'm trying to work here. What? You want me to sponsor what? Oh. Oh, you want to sponsor? You want me to promote? This is a sports channel. No, I try to stay away from that kind of thing because it pisses people off. They're way too sensitive. They get their feelings hurt too easy with the politics. I got to stay away from that. No, I'm not promoting it. I think it's a good idea that he does that, but I'm not promoting it on my channel. No. With who? The Mike Gundy and Nick Fuentes show? No. That no. No. All right, yeah, thank you. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it. All right. Which helmets are we taking off the wall today? Actually, let's wait on that. What are we doing? What are we doing? The weird backlist. Miami's still number one. Florida still dead last. I'm going to turn this phone off. Hello? It's him. Oh, yes. Yeah. What's up? Yeah. I've been waiting. For real? Oh, man. That's great news. Yeah. You know, I've thought that for a while. For a long 7, 8, 9 years. I've thought that. I'm glad I finally know now for sure. Oh, yeah. I'll do a great job. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. All right. Bye. Hey, lady, great news. I am Tennessee's father. Good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Bob the Barner. Live on LouTube for you. How's everybody doing? Y'all okay, Barners? Lee, y'all headed to Birmingham, burned down the SEC officiating offices today? We're going to talk about that. Believe it or not, the Barners do have somewhat of a legitimate gripe. We'll get to that with the officiating in the Auburn-Oklahoma game. But good morning, it is Uncle Lou here. That's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. This is the only Sunday afternoon college football recap video that actually matters. The Your Season is Over video, the Point and Laugh special. I have copious notes for you today. Man, week 4. What did y'all think about week 4? I ended up a little disappointed. I don't even really know if I can articulate why. I think a lot of it was the Texas Tech-Utah game. I was really looking forward to that game. And not only did it end up not being a close game, it just wasn't a well-played game by either team. I'm not taking anything away from Texas Tech. Utah is a good team, and they went in there and won the game convincingly. But there was, 6 turnovers in that game. One of the starting quarterbacks got injured, so we had to, you had a backup situation. I don't know. There was that. The Oklahoma-Auburn game, it was a mess. I don't know. It was a little underwhelming to me. But we do have an amazing list of losers to point and laugh at today. Now, if you're looking for somebody to tell you how great your team played yesterday, or what how you're going 100-0 winning the night, that of course is not this video. You can go anywhere else and they'll tell you how great Oklahoma is for beating Auburn, how great Michigan is for beating Nebraska, how great Miami is for beating Florida, all that. We don't do that here. We talk about the losers. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to highlight the losers yesterday, laugh at them, why did they lose, the whole deal. You already know. So we got that point and laugh special. I've got a list of other games here where we'll just kind of run through the scores and I'll give you brief thoughts, some other winners and losers. I, of course, have an updated Heisman list. I got 2 quarterbacks on it. I got 2 running backs on it. This isn't my prediction of who's winning the Heisman. Okay, it's hard for running backs to win it. I get it. But this is, in my opinion, through 4 weeks, these are the 4 best players I've seen. I've been super impressed with all 4. We'll go over that. I, of course, have the paper plate special for you. You already know. Slide it out to the 50-yard line. Pull your pants down. Take a giant shit in it instead of playing football like you're supposed to. I've got the updated We're Back list. Just a small change in that. The best wins I saw yesterday. Who's the best teams I saw yesterday. Playoff Eliminator. I've added some teams to my Playoff Eliminator. What else do we have here? The Josh Pate special. You already know what he's going to do tonight, don't you? You should know. You should know what he's going to do. All right, let's get to it. Who do we want to start with? You know what? Let's start with Auburn. We're going to start with Auburn. They lost yesterday to Oklahoma. Now, today, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, the end of the season when they're deciding who plays in the SEC championship, and the day after that when they're deciding who makes the playoffs, that's all that's going to matter, bud. That's all that's going to matter, unfortunately. Now, Auburn is not a team that is going to get to the end of the year and the Oklahoma game is going to be the reason they're not in the SEC championship or they're not in the playoffs. They're going to lose several more games anyway. But that was a mess yesterday with the officiating. Now, I don't ever blame officiating for winning or losing a game, whether it's Georgia or anybody else, and I'm not going to start today. But the Auburn man does have some legitimate gripes about yesterday's officiating. My thing with officiating is it's bad across the board. It's bad in the SEC. It's bad in all the other leagues. The officials just aren't good at their job. No, they don't hate Auburn. No, there's no conspiracy in the SEC office to make sure Auburn loses to Oklahoma. Stop it. Auburn hasn't made a bowl game since COVID or what. They haven't been any good in years. There is no mass conspiracy to hold Auburn down this season. The game was just officiated poorly. So poorly, in fact, that the SEC office came out and issued a statement admitting they got something wrong, which never happens with officials. This is a big gripe a lot of us have about part of the officiating situation, is that there's no accountability. There's, at least admit you were wrong sometimes. Well, they did that yesterday. Oklahoma, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, here's the thing. Officials, referees, whatever you want to call it, they miss things all the time. Right? They miss things all the time. They miss a holding. They miss a pass interference. They miss a face mask. They miss whatever. They miss calls all the time. I'm not excusing it, but it's just a fact. They do miss calls, okay? And because the Oklahoma guy will go, well, the referees missed it. They should have called it. If you don't know what we're talking about, Oklahoma pretended to run a wide receiver off the field as if they were substituting, but the wide receiver didn't run all the way off the field. He stopped it like 1 inch from being out of bounds and just stood there. Oklahoma lined up, snapped the ball. No one was covering him. He ran down the sideline all by himself. John Mateer threw him the ball. It's the easiest passing catch you'll ever see in college football. And you might be thinking, well, Auburn shouldn't have got tricked, shouldn't have got fooled. Well, the thing is, that play is against the rules. There is a specific SEC rule that bans intentionally trying to deceive your opponent through substitutions. That rule exists specifically to ban exactly what Oklahoma did. And the SEC teams know that. Brent Venables knows that. Oklahoma knows that. Their offensive coordinator knows that. They did it anyway. Why? Hoping the officials would miss it, just like they miss holding penalties, just like they miss pass interference penalties. And guess what? They missed it. It should have been a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Oklahoma, and that touchdown shouldn't have counted. That's 100% true and facts. You can't argue that. You can't debate that, whether you're an Oklahoma fan or somebody else. They blew that call, but they blow calls all the time. The difference here is that Oklahoma intentionally did this with the hope that the officials would miss it. A holding call that doesn't get called, the left tackle doesn't line up before the play starts and goes, I'm going to hold this defensive end on this play and hope that the referee doesn't see it. It's in the course of play where he's about to get beat and he hooks him or grabs onto his jersey or something because he's about to get beat. It sort of happens in the moment, those types of things. Pass interference, same way. No DB lines up across from a receiver before the ball is snapped and goes, you know what? I'm going to let this guy run 5 yards downfield and then I'm going to grab him and hold him and hope the referee doesn't see it. No, he gets beat or he feels like he's about to get beat, so he grabs some jersey or wraps him up or gets to the ball too early, whatever. It's not a pre-planned thing that's thought out ahead of time. This thing that Oklahoma did was obviously practiced. The players knew what to do. They ran it to perfection. So it was obviously practiced. It was obviously implemented. It was obviously a part of this game plan. Oklahoma knew what they were doing there. And I do think that's underhanded. It's sketchy. People jumped on Dan Lanning. Like, remember the Oregon-Ohio State game last year where Dan Lanning used a loophole in a rule to take time off the clock from Ohio State at the end of a game? People said that was shady. That was underhanded. That was sketchy. Well, what Dan Lanning did was actually 100% within the rules. He just took advantage of a rule that was there. That rule then immediately got changed, right? This is worse. What Oklahoma did is worse. And I say all that so that the Auburn man knows that, yeah, I understand you got screwed on that one play, which did result in a touchdown. Okay? So I understand that. However, you got your ass beat here. You got sacked 10 times, a record. Auburn's offensive line is one of the worst in the country. It's pitiful. They couldn't protect Jackson Arnold against Baylor. So it was no surprise to me that they couldn't protect Jackson Arnold yesterday against Brent Venables' front four. And that's all it was. That's what was wild. They weren't sending linebackers or corners or safeties or doing all these exotic blitzes. It was 5 Auburn offensive linemen, 4 Oklahoma defensive linemen, and 5 couldn't block 4.
and they got 10 sacks. Now, some of those were Jackson Arnold holding on to the ball too long, which is a problem he's carried over from last year. DJ Lagway does the same thing, by the way. These quarterbacks that just don't know what they're doing and are scared to throw the ball, Jackson Arnold, DJ Lagway, they're going to take some sacks because they hold the ball too long. But Auburn's offensive line is pathetic. It's out. I mean, it's sad. Auburn really has no offense outside of Jackson Arnold scrambles, which didn't work yesterday, by the way. Listen to these numbers. So they lost 24-17, right? Jackson Arnold, 21 of 32 for 220 yards. So a decent completion percentage, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Oklahoma only had 35 yards rushing. Look, Oklahoma's got issues too. Oklahoma's not some unbeatable juggernaut. Oklahoma's got some weak spots too. Their run game's terrible, but Mateer lit it up again, 24 of 36, 271 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Jackson Arnold, minus 11 rush yards. Now, again, in college football, sacks take away from your rushing total. But when you're Auburn and your only real offensive game plan is for Jackson Arnold to scramble around or for Jackson Arnold to close his eyes and throw up prayers to Cam Coleman, that's literally Auburn's entire offense. Oklahoma took the Jackson Arnold scrambling around part away, and all that was left was a couple of hopes and prayers from Jackson Arnold where he literally drops back, closes his eyes, and throws the ball in Cam Coleman's direction. And luckily for Auburn, Cam Coleman was able to run up underneath a couple of those and catch him. Cam Coleman is an elite. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. He'd start and play and get significant playing time and be a star on any team in the country. I don't care how deep their wide receiver room is. Not going to get into the discussion of, is he better than this guy or is he better than I don't know. But what I'm telling you is room would be made for Cam Coleman in every wide receiver room in the country, period. He is really, really good. The problem is he's being completely wasted at Auburn and Hugh Freeze with a series of terrible dog shit quarterbacks, which is what Jackson Arnold is. He's not any good. He wasn't good last year. He's not good this year. Can't throw the ball. When Oklahoma took away his ability to scramble, that was it. Auburn had there was nothing else for them to go to beyond that, outside of the close his eyes and throw it up to Cam Coleman thing. And that's where the game was won and lost. You can point to that cheating play that Oklahoma did if you wanted to, but again, plays are missed all the time. I don't. Georgia's lost games and, because officials did certain things. I don't ever come on here and say, if it wasn't for that one call by the official. There are 100 instances in a game where things could go one way or the other. There's a couple other in the Auburn game. The fumble that was a fumble and then it wasn't a fumble and then it wasn't even a catch or whatever it was. That was the right call. They got it. They got that right in the end. That wide receiver never had possession of that ball, ever. Never had possession of that ball. So that was not a fumble. It was not a fumble. They got it right through review. Now, all the Auburn fans are running all over the internet today, proclaiming themselves fake winners of the game because the SEC office came out and admitted that Oklahoma cheated on that fake substitution play. Well, the SEC office, the same one that you're propping up when they say something you like, that same SEC office came out and said they got that call right, the fumble call that got reversed and wasn't a fumble. So you can't run all over the internet using the SEC office as your reason, to jump up and down because they're on your side on that cheating play from Oklahoma, and then ignore the fact that they also said the referees in the replay booth got the call right on that fumble that ended up not being a fumble. So, the referees missed that call. They blew it. There's no doubt about it. Get over it. Go on to win the game. You couldn't do it because you have no offense at all. At all. Jackson Arnold's not good. The offensive line is terrible. You've got no run game beyond Jackson Arnold. So when that gets shut down, there is no plan B. There is no plan B. And Auburn lost. Yeah, the officiating, the trick play, that was bad. Pass interference penalties. These things go both ways all the time. They didn't call pass interference on this one, but they called it on that one. Yeah, there was probably a pass interference call on Oklahoma on that one play they didn't call. But there was probably pass interference on 10 other plays in that game that they didn't call. Pass interference and holding could be called on every play in college football if the referees really wanted to. There's holding on every single play somewhere. There's pass interference on almost every pass play. I mean, they miss some, they get some. I mean, this blaming the referees for your loss. Come on, man. Y'all aren't very good is what it is. Y'all got no offense. You shouldn't be surprised. This isn't Hugh Freeze's first year. It's his third year. You've seen him put a dog shit offense on the field now for 3 years in a row. Come on, man. You lost the game. You're not very good. Turnovers, Oklahoma had 1, Auburn had 0. So Auburn won the turnover battle. Wasn't enough. You lost the game. And like I said, everybody's talking about the officiating thing today. I can promise you, tomorrow, a week from today, whatever, no one's going to care or be talking about it outside of a few Auburn fans who still have their feelings hurt. That's it. It's not going to matter when they get ready to tell you who's going to the SEC championship. It's not like they're going to say, you know what? Oklahoma and whoever, Tennessee, have qualified for the SEC championship game. But because Auburn got screwed on one call by the officials way back in September, we're going to take Oklahoma out and put Auburn in. Yay! That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Sorry. Your season is over for the purposes of this video. Shout out to Auburn, though. They tried really hard. Who else tried hard? Not Oklahoma State. Holy shit. What is going on with Oklahoma State? Now, I have my opinions and theories. I think Mike Gundy's completely checked out. I don't think he even wants to be a college football coach anymore. Now, Dabo, and we'll get to Dabo in a second because there was a lot popping up yesterday about, Dabo and Mike Gundy are in the same boat. They just, I don't think so. Dabo, I think, does want to be a coach. He just wants to coach the old way, and it's not working, and he's too hard-headed to change. Mike Gundy, I don't even think he's got the slightest interest in college football anymore. None. I don't know what happened because I really liked Mike Gundy 10 years ago. Everybody did. He was one of the best personalities in college football. Y'all know how I feel about coaching press conferences. They're mostly not worth watching because anytime a coach's mouth is moving, he's either lying or not really saying anything at all. It's just coach speak bullshit that you get over and over and over again. There's always a couple of coaches every year where that's not the case. That does have entertaining things to say. Mike Gundy's one of those people. Mike Leach was that way. There's been coaches that have been that way. But something happened to this guy 4 or 5 years ago. It happened around COVID. It happened around the implementation of the portal and NIL and all of that. And I'm not an Oklahoma State person. I'm not privy to the ins and outs of what goes on there and all that. So I'm not going to pretend to know the exact reason or what. But this guy appears to have no interest at all in college football to me at this point. Oklahoma State has got to find a way to cut ties with Mike Gundy. It's easy for us as fans to go, especially if we're not Oklahoma State fans, to go, hey, fire Mike Gundy. Well, yeah, he's terrible. He's dog shit. I mean, they're absolutely horrific. They're as bad as you think they are. Look, you didn't watch the Oklahoma State-Oregon game. Nobody did. Oregon fans watched it. That's it. Nobody watches these 70-0 games. And you probably didn't watch any other Oklahoma State games either. I know I didn't. I watched 10 minutes of the Oregon game, and I went, yep, that's about what I thought was going to happen, and I put another game on. I watched the Oklahoma State game yesterday. They are as bad as you think they are. Tulsa beat the soul and will to live out of them, and Tulsa's not very good. 19-12 was the final score, but it wasn't that close. Oklahoma State never led the game. They trailed the entire game. Tulsa controlled the game on both sides of the ball. This wasn't some type of a fluke where they were, blocked a field goal and returned it for a touchdown or had some kind of weird, 5 turnover situation or something. No, Oklahoma State got beat by a better team, a better coach team. It was embarrassing. They never led the game. I mean, it's just, you go through the stats. The stats aren't that bad when you look at the stats, but it's kind of like Florida in a way. You look at Florida and it's like, wow, the defense is really good, but the offense won't do it. Like, nothing comes together for them. They look just like nothing's easy. Like you go, okay, who are they? Like, what are they, a running team? Are they a throwing team? Who are the star players? Like, there aren't any. Florida's got the defense, but as a team, like, you're just like, what is going on here? And you watch Oklahoma State, and Mike Gundy's on the sideline completely checked out. They need to find a way to sever ties with this guy. But get back to the point, it's easy for us to go, well, let's fire him. The guy's been there for a million years. And, when that happens, every year that goes by makes it harder to fire him. Georgia went through this with Mark Richt, and he was only there 15 years. Now lately Gundy has had some bottom out seasons, no doubt about it. But for the most part, Gundy's been like this 7 or 8 win coach who is good enough most years to quiet the critics. And then every 3 or 4 years, you look up in November and they had a shot still to potentially make a conference championship game. Now, they didn't make very many, but they were like relevant in their conference in November, if that makes sense. Like they were playing games that mattered within their conference in November most years. Those days are long gone. And it becomes hard to fire a guy the longer he's been there, But they need to figure something out. One of these things where it's like a mutual decision where they agree to let him resign for half the buyout or whatever. It's something. He's got no interest in it. It's I feel bad for Oklahoma State fans. Who are they going to get if they fire Gundy? I don't know. You don't keep a coach because you're not sure who you might get. If you think you should get rid of a coach, get rid of him. Then figure out who you're going to get. But Oklahoma State is circling the drain as a program right now. They are down in a bad fucking way. Oklahoma State, your season's been over. Arkansas, wow. Reminded me kind of the, speaking of Oklahoma State, you remember the Arkansas-Oklahoma State game from last year? You probably don't. Weird fucking game. Anyway, the Arkansas-Memphis game yesterday reminded me of that. Arkansas had a big lead at halftime. Never came out of the tunnel to start the second half. They scored 3 points in the second half while Memphis went up and down the field. It was weird. It was a totally different-looking Arkansas team in the second half. They weren't trying, making mistakes, missed tackles, wide-open receivers. Running through their secondary, and they lose to Memphis, a literal third world country. I never knew I hated Memphis till this past week. What is wrong with that coach at Memphis? I don't understand. Somebody explain this to me. Why would this guy, Ryan Silverfield, never heard of this guy until this week. He's doing his midweek press conference about the Arkansas game, and he decides to start taking shots at Georgia? Why? Georgia would beat you like a runaway orphan. What are you doing? I don't understand his point in even doing that. I don't get it. But you pissed me off when you did it, and I probably said more than I should have said yesterday about Memphis, but fuck Memphis. But they did beat Arkansas, so for the purposes of this video, Arkansas is dog shit, and their season is over. 31-32, Memphis comes back in the second half. And look, I don't have a problem with Memphis football team. I don't. They've been a pretty good team the last few years. They're one of the group of 5 teams this year that has a shot to make playoffs. I've never had any reason to really even think about Memphis outside of that. But this coach can suck my taint from the inside out. I got zero use for this dumb motherfucker. And I hope Georgia or some SEC team, if Memphis makes the playoffs, I hope that's their matchup. And I hope they lose by 1,000,000. Yeah, I do. But they beat Arkansas. Arkansas was winning 28-10 in the second quarter. They scored 3 points the rest of the game and lost 32-31. Unbelievable. Second half collapse. A turnover down there inside the 5-yard line when they were about to score late in the game. I don't even know why they were running the ball. They were still winning at that point. Why not? You could have taken a knee probably. I don't know. Bad coaching. Sam Pittman could be on the way out. I don't know what they're going to do there. I kind of assumed when they brought, what's his name in? The scooter guy that wrecked the scooter. He's the offensive coordinator now. He was at Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher. Got Jimbo Fisher fired. Now he's the offensive coordinator. What's his name? He was the coach at Louisville and all that. You know who I'm talking about. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, I kind of figured when they brought him back, but Bobby Petrino. I told you it would come to me in a minute. Bob DeBarner knows stuff. Fuck Auburn. Is Auburn? I don't know. Auburn. So it's the Auburn Tigers, right? But they're the War Eagles, right? So you got a War. So I got the War Tigers because I didn't know which way to go. Whether the Auburn Tigers, but it's War Eagles. So you get the War Tiger, and of course they're a cow college, the Barners. Anyway, Bobby Petrino at Arkansas. I kind of assumed when he took the job there that because Pittman was struggling, I was like, okay, if they decide to run Pittman out of town, they just promote Petrino back to head coach again. But now I'm hearing other names linked to the Arkansas thing. So I don't know. I'll tell you this, though. If Sam Pittman does get fired from Arkansas, there will be a line a mile long of college football head coaches looking to hire Sam Pittman as an offensive line coach. I think Sam Pittman's the best offensive line coach on the planet. He was at Georgia with Kirby for a couple of years. He was at Arkansas and built their offensive line before that. Like, he's a guru for whatever in the recruiting on the offensive line, coaching, development, the whole deal. There's not a better man on the planet to run your offensive line room, I don't think, than Sam Pittman. Now, it might be a little bit of a hit to the ego to have to go from head coach back to offensive line coach. I don't know if he'd be willing to do it. And obviously a very significant pay cut. You're not going to pay an offensive line coach anywhere near what a head coach makes. But if he gets fired, I would assume he'd get some kind of cozy buyout that might make his cut in salary to become an offensive line coach more easy to stomach. I don't know. I'd love to have him back at Georgia's offensive line. Georgia's offensive line coach is driving that offensive line into the ground since that Stacey Searles or whatever his name is. That's why I shouldn't hire a woman to coach her offensive line. But anyway, Arkansas, your season is over. Arkansas had 500 yards of offense and lost. Again, they had 500 yards of offense last week against Ole Miss and lost. They're like the opposite of Florida. You know, Florida's got a great defense, but can't get a first down to save their life. Arkansas, on the other hand, defensively, they're a sieve. They can't stop anything. They go up and down the field offensively, and I still like Talon Green, whatever his name is, quarterback for Arkansas. He's fun to watch. Holy shit, he can't play defense. They're bad. Arkansas, your season is over. Utah, disappointing game yesterday. 6 turnovers in that game, 4 by Utah, I believe, 2 by Texas Tech. I admitted headed into the game that I had not watched any Texas Tech yet, right? But I was going to watch them and was looking forward to watching them because they revamped their roster. They spent all that money in the offseason with the billionaire donor that they have in the portal and all those kinds of things. Nothing wrong with that. There's lots of teams doing that. I don't point that out to demean it in any way, but that's what made Texas Tech such an interesting team this offseason heading into the season was, okay, they spent a bunch of money. How's it going to look on the field? And up until yesterday, they had really not played any quality competition. I do think Utah's quality competition. Now, when you start to look into Texas Tech and what they like to do, the style of play, those kinds of things, they're a spread you out and chunk plays, explosive plays down the field. So I'm thinking, okay, they might try to do that. Utah, on the other hand, is going to want to slow this thing down, make it sort of like a street fight, drag them into the gutter, sort of slow everything down, try to make it a line of scrimmage game, because that's where Utah can win. Boy, was I wrong. Utah got whipped on the line of scrimmage by Texas Tech. That surprised me. Some of the explosive plays from Texas Tech, some of the passing plays I saw, some of the offensive style they ran, that didn't surprise me based on what I read leading up to the game. But I didn't think they would line up and whip Utah along the lines of scrimmage like that, and they did. So I'm coming out of that game impressed with Texas Tech and still thinking that Utah is a pretty good team. That thing got away from them in the fourth quarter. The score is not really indicative of how close that game was for the majority of the game, for those of you that might not have watched it. The final score ended up being 34-10. It was 10-10 in the fourth quarter. Texas Tech scored 24 points in the fourth quarter and blew that thing open and ends up blowing them out 34-10. Texas Tech quarterbacks, because unfortunately their starter got hurt. Let's hope he's going to be okay. But the backup came in and did okay. Obviously, there's a reason he's a backup, but he did okay. 25 of 35. This is the total numbers combined for the two. 25 of 35, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So they had 2 turnovers, but Utah had 4. Utah had 3 fumbles. They lost 2 of them. They had 2 interceptions by their quarterback, Dan Pierre, a transfer. Utah brought in a transfer quarterback and his coordinator from the same school, sort of the same thing Oklahoma did with John Mateer and his offensive coordinator. And it's worked for the most part up until yesterday for Utah. They've had a pretty exciting and a good offense this year, unable to get going yesterday, though, stuck in the mud, only scoring 10 points. So Texas Tech impressed me. 2 things about Texas Tech impressed me. 1, the line of scrimmage play. Utah is one of the most physical teams year in and year out, especially in the Big 12. it surprised me that Texas Tech was able to handle them in the interior, in the trenches. And then number two, just Texas Tech's defense overall. Because I still think Utah's a pretty good team. I still think Utah could make the Big 12 title game. Now, there's about 6 teams that I think could make the Big 12 title game. But just because Utah lost to Texas Tech and the score wasn't close, 34-10, I'm not writing Utah off. You'll see when I get to my playoff eliminator, I'm not putting Utah into playoff eliminator. You have to see somebody from the Big 12 is making the playoffs. So you might go, well, I watched Utah yesterday. They don't look like a playoff team to me. Have you seen the Big 12, bud? All you got to do is win the Big 12 and you're in. There doesn't appear to be a dominant team. Texas Tech looked good yesterday, but they don't look unbeatable to me. So we'll see on that. We'll see on that going forward. Texas Tech had 173 rushing yards, Utah 101. So again, more physical there at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage. Texas Tech 24 points in the fourth quarter. Unbelievable. Utah, for the purposes of this video, your season is over. You got to do better. 4 turnovers. You can't win games that way. You're not going to win big game, turn the ball over 4 times. You got lucky. They gave it back to you twice. So you were only -2 on the turnover margin, but still you can't win big games that way. Florida, God almighty. I said this on the video yesterday, and some people disagree with me, but I'm serious. Florida is so bad now, I'm having a hard time getting any joy out of watching them lose. I'm serious. It's to the point now where you're almost rooting for Florida, because at this point, it's funnier if Florida beats somebody than it is if they lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine whoever Florida beats next, that team is going to get roasted. Not just on this show, but just on the internet in general. Texas comes to town, and imagine Texas comes into Gainesville in 2 weeks and loses. It's not like Arch Manning has been lights out. We're going to talk about him in a minute, too. The dumbass shit he did yesterday. What a moron, this Arch Manning. I've defended Arch Manning from a personality standpoint, because people, he's overrated, he's too hyped up, blah, blah. None of that's Arch Manning's fault. That was the media and talking heads that hyped him up. Arch Manning's kind of avoided the media, has been quiet, kind of done things the right way. He did something yesterday that was retarded. I'll get to that in a second. But back to the Florida thing. It's to the point now where you go, you don't want to be that team to lose. It's more embarrassing now if Florida beats you than it is fun laughing at Florida for losing for now the whatever it is, 3rd game in a row. Their defense they might have a top 10 defense in the country. I mean, how many weeks in a row do we have to watch their defense hold opponents under 20 points before we go, okay, the defense is legit, but their offense it's hard to believe their offense is that bad. Miami only scored 1 touchdown in the first half. This thing was close to the fourth quarter. I mean, Miami... Florida gets the ball to start the second half. They drive right down the field, running the ball the whole time, by the way. Where's that been? Billy Napier. Ran the ball down Miami's throat, scored a touchdown, and we got us a game in the second half. And then that was it for Miami offensively. Nothing after that. DJ Lagway looks to me like a golfer that used to be really good, but somebody or something got in his head and fucked him up, and now he can't help but slice the ball every time. And so every time he lines up over that on that tee box to hit that drive, he's got so much shit running through his mind that he can't just stand there and play golf. That's DJ Lagway. He drops back to throw, and he's scared to death. Deer in headlights, scared to throw the ball. Even his motion, his throwing motion, it looks like he's trying to place the ball. Like he's afraid to just... Like he doesn't trust himself. And I don't know if that's coaching that has ruined him. I don't know if that's not practicing for 8 months because he's constantly injured. I don't know if that's what it is. There is a third possibility, which is that he's complete and total dog shit. That's another possibility. That's where you can still kind of needle the Florida fans. And I talked about this a little bit last week, but even though Florida fans talked in the offseason about we're going to win 9 or 10 games and we're going to compete to win the SEC, and if we go 9-3, we'll be in the playoffs, they didn't really believe any of that. They were fed a bunch of bullshit by idiots like Josh Pate and a couple of other people, and so they were like, well, maybe there's a chance. But they didn't really, when they looked at their team, what Billy Napier has done there and their schedule, they didn't really believe they were winning all those games, okay? So when Florida started losing, they really weren't surprised. And we still laughed at them and made fun of them. But deep down, you kind of knew that they knew that was going to happen. Well, that's not the case with DJ Lagway. They thought he was their shining star. He was sort of the light at the end of the tunnel, you know? Yeah, things have been bad, and Billy Napier is what he is, and we lost a lot of games last couple of years. But boy, did you see DJ Lagway at the end of last season? And now we have him for a full year. And then again, idiots start putting out these lists of top quarterbacks, and they're putting DJ Lagway on it. For no reason, by the way. The guy completed a couple of passes in November last year when Florida was otherwise completely dead. And somehow that made him a Heisman contender heading into the season. It was complete insanity, right? But the Florida fans did truly believe that they had an elite all-world talent in DJ Lagway. And it turns out he's fucking terrible. He's just like everybody. He's like the rest of the players and the rest of the coaches. In over his head, not any good. Scared to throw the ball. Can't move around at all. That surprises me more than anything else. Carson Beck is about more mobile than DJ Lagway. Woo. How do you explain that, bud? You can't explain it. You can't explain it. He's not any good. They're on Twitter calling, put the backup in, put the third string in. Y'all are, well, I tell you. Y'all are so desperate to be relevant in the world of college football. I'm talking to Florida fans now. That's what it is. They're so desperate. It's like if you wander the desert for a week and you hadn't had anything to drink, right? You'll drink anything. And that's how the Florida fans are. Well, did somebody say, did you see where somebody put DJ Lagway in their top 5 Heisman list? Yeah. I saw a list of top 10 quarterbacks the other day, and it had DJ Lagway in it. Oh, well, I saw this guy talking about dark horse playoff teams, and they said if Florida goes 9-3 against that schedule, they probably get in the playoffs. Oh, yeah, DJ Lagway. They're so thirsty. Y'all are terrible. Y'all are so bad. Y'all are so bad. 26-7 is the final score. Miami beat Florida. Lagway's final numbers, 12 of 23, right at 50%, which is pretty good for him, actually. 61 yards of passing in an entire game of football. At halftime, Florida had 32 yards of offense at halftime. Now, net yardage, they had 12 because they had 20 penalty yards, and they don't subtract penalty yardage from total yardage. So they had 32 total yards of offense in the first half. But if you subtract those penalty yards, they netted 12 yards in the first half. Absolutely pathetic, piss poor, pitiful, and sad. They had 80 rushing yards. 60 of those came on one drive. 60 of those came on one drive to start the third quarter. 20 rushing yards the rest of the game. They had 140 yards total the entire game. 80 of that came on one drive to start the third quarter. Outside of that drive to start the third quarter, and I don't know what enabled them to do that. They looked pretty good. The offensive line played well. Ball was running hard. The running back, and they pushed Miami around for one drive. But again, that was an 80-yard touchdown drive to start the third quarter. They had 60 yards total the entire rest of the game, and ended with a total of 140 yards on offense. The defense played well enough to keep them in the game like they have every game, but their offense is putrid. It's one of the worst in the country. Forget just the SEC. And I said it last week, and it didn't happen this week, but it's going to happen. Eventually, that defense is going to give the offense one of these, and they're going to go into give-up mode. And that's when Florida will start losing by 30 and 40 points. Don't know when that'll be. They've got a bye week. I thought there was a chance Billy Napier might get fired today if they lost to Miami. I'm recording this video at about 2 p.m. He's not been fired. From what I'm seeing, it looks like he's not going to be. Florida has a bye week coming up. A lot of teams, if they're thinking about firing a coach, will go ahead and pull the trigger heading into a bye week, because that way when they promote an interim head coach, that interim head coach has 2 weeks to work with the team before they have to play a game. Florida hosts Texas, I believe it is, in 2 weeks. So is Texas a world beater? Doesn't look like it. Are they going to beat Florida? Probably. Just like everyone is probably going to beat Florida. But boy, it's almost not even any fun to laugh at you anymore, Florida man. Outside of the Lagway angle, laughing at you because your team is bad is lost its luster. I'm serious. We were live streaming a game last night on Patreon, and we were talking out loud, and people typing that, maybe we should root for Florida here in the second half, because wouldn't it be funnier at this point if they won a game? And I'm like, you know what? It's a pretty good point. And let's be honest, Miami fans are getting a little too familiar. Miami fans are getting a little too loud and obnoxious. The problem is, when you look at their schedule, the only potential team that can knock them off their pedestal, it looks like, would be Florida State. And Florida State fans might be even more obnoxious. Florida State fans, man. Why don't look? This is all right. I don't think we're not talking much about Florida State today, so I'm going to say this about Florida State. Florida, your season is over. Fuck you and your fans. Y'all are dog shit. That idiot over at High Top Sports tried to troll me on Twitter yesterday in the afternoon before the Florida game started because UNLV was losing at halftime to Miami of Ohio. Now, obviously, UNLV came back and won the game. They're undefeated. They're 4-0. Dan Mullen is 4-0. But why, as a Florida fan, would you try to troll me, a Georgia fan, about UNLV losing at halftime when you know they're probably going to come back and win? And you know your team has to play on the road at Miami and you know they're going to lose. Do you like collecting L's? You ended up with 2 L's yesterday, but because you could have just not hit send on that tweet instead of trying to troll me about UNLV, which I don't even give a fuck about. The whole UNLV thing is a troll on you. And you know how I know it's working? Because when UNLV was losing yesterday at halftime and you saw that score scroll across the bottom of your TV, the first thing you did was think of me. So my now almost year-long attempt to troll the Florida fans using Dan Mullen and UNLV is a massive fucking success. Because I'm occupying a large percentage of real estate inside of that little peanut head of yours, to the point where you can't even enjoy your college football Saturday because you're sitting around wondering if UNLV fake favorite team is winning or losing against Miami of Ohio at halftime. And of course they came back and won. So you took 2 L's yesterday. You took the L on the UNLV thing when you tried to troll me, and UNLV ended up winning, and Florida lost again. You collect L's like one of these high-functioning retards that collects stamps or something. I mean, do you collect stamps, bud? You want me to send you some stamps, man? Let Uncle Lou know. Season's over. Now, Florida State, man, because we're not talking about y'all in this video. Stop running around the internet looking for people to congratulate you on beating Kent State 70-0 or whatever, East Texas A&M a couple of weeks ago, 70-0. Talk about the Alabama game. That was an impressive win. People actually watched that game. Nobody has watched one snap of Florida State football since the Alabama game. Not one. Because we just don't care. But that was a good win. Look, I think we all know what this is. They went 2-10 last year. They were the laughing stock. They were the butt of every joke. They were one of the worst teams in the history of college football last year. And now, a year later, they're pretty good. And they are trying to overcompensate for their feelings getting destroyed last year by demanding that we give them digital hugs 7 days a week about how great they are. I don't give a fuck if you're good, great, bad, or terrible. I just point out whichever one it is. Last year you were terrible. I pointed it out. This guy is just a hater. No, you were dog shit last year. This year you're good. I've got you in the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got you 7. That's before this weekend's games. Probably going to have to move LSU down again, whatever. But what do y'all want? Y'all are still, I saw it this morning, still on Twitter with the ESPN tweets and the SEC bias tweets. What in the fuck are y'all doing? Y'all are somehow embarrassing yourselves more this year when you have a legitimate team than you did last year when you were 2-10 and the worst fucking team in the galaxy. Y'all need to get a hold of yourselves. And that's the problem with Miami. You look at their schedule, the only team it looks like that's going to be able to compete with them is Florida State. So that's great if Florida State beats them and shut up the Miami, man. But then we got to deal with a whole much more of this stupid fucking white Tonto bullshit. We're in a no-win situation with this Miami-Florida State deal. I'll tell you that right now, because they're both good. That's a problem. We need one of them to be bad, so we got to be able to laugh at one of them. Well, yeah, we just laugh at Florida then. That'll be just fine. What's next after Florida? Illinois. All right. Couple of things I was obviously dead wrong about in the offseason. Here we go. One of them was Indiana. Now, I will fully admit that my thoughts about Indiana were based in part in me not liking Cignetti and wanting Indiana to lose. And I haven't hid that. I've told you that. I don't like Cignetti. I hope they lose every game they play. They're not going to lose every game they play. They beat Illinois 70-10, or what was the final score? 60-something to 10. I could not believe 63-10. I couldn't believe what I was saying. Not only is Indiana not terrible in losing 5 or 6 games this year like I wanted them to, they may be back in the playoffs again. What team has looked better in the Big Ten than Illinois looked yesterday? I'll wait. I mean, than Indiana. Than Indiana looked yesterday. Sorry. Indiana. Where are they at? Where the hell is Indiana? Right there. Who has looked better in the Big Ten this season than Indiana looked yesterday? I'm not talking about over the course of a season, you say, well, Ohio State has to win against Texas. Yes, I know that. I'm saying in any one game that any team in the Big Ten has played, has anybody looked better than Indiana looked yesterday? The answer is no. The answer is no. You're going to have to add that quarterback to your Heisman list. What choice do you have? The guy's putting up video game numbers every single week. Oh, Illinois was overrated. That's easy to say now. That's easy to say now. They're a tough physical team. Brett Bielema always has good lines of scrimmage. Indiana dominated them in every way imaginable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. That is no fluke team. And as much as it pains me to say it, Cignetti's a good coach. It wasn't a fluke last year. Indiana is legit. That quarterback is legit. They're well coached. They play hard. They don't beat themselves. They don't commit a lot of stupid penalties. They're physical. They have good skill players. I don't know what the weakness is. Now, they got more tough games coming up, but I have had to drastically adjust my opinion on Indiana after what I saw yesterday. So they're like the opposite for me of Kansas State. Remember? I said, oh, Kansas State, that was my pick to win the Big 12. Well, they're dog shit. Indiana, I thought was going to be dog shit. I might move them into the top 10. I think I had them ranked somewhere 20 to 25 this week. Remind me in the chat if you remember, but I think I had them somewhere 20 to 25. They're moving way up. I had Illinois at like a 9 or 10, I think. Oh my God. They got annihilated. That was impressive. Look, again, people say if you talk bad about teams, it just means you're a hater. And if you talk good about teams, it just means you just love that team. I hate Indiana. I hate Cignetti. They're one of the best teams in the country. You have to, a lot of y'all can't be objective. So you project that onto everyone else. Like, oh, if this guy's talking bad about a team, must just hate him. If he's talking good, he must be. I'm telling you, Indiana's good. I don't like them, but they're good. I'm telling you. In case you didn't watch the game. Wasn't no kind of fluky shit. 63-10. Illinois only had 146 passing yards. So there ain't even no point mentioning the stat. Mendoza, 21 of 23. 21 of 23. Against the Power 4. Illinois was in everybody's top 10, not just mine. They were in every top 10. That was the biggest lopsided loss by a top 10 Big Ten team in AP poll history. The AP poll came out in 1939? That's the most lopsided loss by any team, any Big Ten team, any Big Ten top 10 team in AP poll history. Illinois is not a terrible team. And Mendoza was 21 of 23. If you're wondering, that's way above the Mendoza line. Google it. 267 yards, 5 touchdowns for Mendoza. Oh, by the way, they also ran the ball for 312 yards. Dominating. Illinois, you can't recover from that. You're not making the playoff. There you are down there. You're not making the playoffs. Your season might be over for real. Now, since you're in the Big Ten and they're likely to get 3 or 4 teams in, I can't add you to the playoff eliminator yet, but you're basically out at this point. I don't see, boy, that's the kind of loss that can beat you twice. Who does Illinois play next week? I might bet whoever they're playing. I might bet against Illinois because they got humiliated. That game might cost them to lose next week for no reason. They got destroyed. I can't say enough bad things about Illinois and enough good things about Indiana. Now I can say a lot of bad things about Clemson. I'm about to right now. It's way worse than I thought with Clemson. It's way worse than I thought. Here's my approach to Clemson over the last 3 or 4 years has been this. Dabo Swinney, great head coach in the 20-teens. One of the best coaches in the country in the 20-teens. Probably the second best coach in the country in the 20-teens. Went head-to-head with Nick Saban when Saban had Bama at the peak of their dynasty and beat him multiple times. Won 2 national titles. All that dumb shit that Dabo spewed in his press conference the other day, all of that is true. Made the playoffs 7 out of the last 10 years. Won their league 8 out of the last 10 years. 2 national titles. Players all over the NFL. All of that is true. That's all. He was unbelievable. And Clemson was unbelievable in the 20-teens. And then we got NIL, portal, now rev share. Dabo hates it. He hates it. And I've been telling you for the last 3 or 4 years, there is a trend at Clemson, and it's in the wrong direction. And you can track their win-loss record from 2020 to now, and you will clearly see that. From no losses to 1 loss to 2 losses to 3 losses to last year 4 losses and heading for more than that this year. It's a clear trend. All of that is still true. All of that is still true. I said, they're staying the same, and all these other teams around them are getting better through the portal. I use Georgia as an example. Georgia recruits in the top 3 every single year. 10 years in a row, a top 3 recruiting class. They are loaded with high school talent, year in, year out, top 3 recruiting class. They still go out and get key pieces from the portal every single year. 2 weeks ago, Georgia played on the road at Tennessee. They scored 44 points. 30 of those 44 points were scored by transfers. 30 of those 44 points were scored by transfers. So I still hold to that with Clemson, that it is a big problem. The way Dabo views the portal and NIL and modern college football, he's failed to evolve and adapt, and college football has caught him and now passed him by. And he's too stubborn, too hard-headed, too stuck in his ways to make any type of significant change, which is what needed to happen. I still believe all that. However, it's worse than that. Because what I thought was going to happen is that the weaknesses at Clemson as a result of Dabo not taking the portal and NIL and all that seriously would surface when Clemson played other high-level elite teams. Because those teams have talent equal to Clemson. Then they go out and fill holes through the portal, and Clemson's not going to be able to keep up. And that has been true. But we're at a point now where they can't keep up with Syracuse, Georgia Tech. These aren't teams that are as equally as talented as Clemson, but have filled in key holes through the portal, and that's why they're beating Clemson. That ain't the case here. You look at Clemson's roster and you look at Syracuse's roster, night and day difference. Night and day difference. Clemson is way more talented than Syracuse. They should be able to beat the Syracuses of the world without the portal. And they got whipped. I have not seen Clemson's defense play as bad as it played in the first half yesterday in over a decade. You got to go back to Dabo's first 4 or 5 years. It was horrendous. Syracuse was running through arm tackles. Clemson defenders were out of place. Wide open wide receivers in the secondary. They were getting moved off the line of scrimmage along the defensive front. And that entire defensive front is NFL players. All of them. 5 of their front 7 are NFL players. So what you have happening now at Clemson, in addition to the head coach sort of sabotaging the program from within by not taking full advantage of the resources that are available to him, a la the portal and things like that, is you've got a roster of players who just don't give a fuck. And that's a bigger problem, because that takes you from being a 9 or 10 win team that backdoors into the playoffs like you did last year, but then loses to an SEC team because you can't beat an SEC team. That takes you from that to a 6 or a 7 win team that's getting beat by Georgia Tech and Syracuse in back-to-back weeks. This one at home. Clemson was getting booed in the first half. And it continued into the second half, but even in the first half, they were getting booed by the home crowd. It was terrible. It was terrible. I can't believe this number I'm about to read off to you. Cade Klubnik attempted 60 passes yesterday. 60. There are Mike Leach teams that didn't attempt 60 passes. He'd get to 50, 55. 60 pass attempts in one game against Syracuse. Clemson doesn't have any running backs. I told you that all offseason. And the Clemson, we got this freshman. Where is he at? Milk carton alert? Haven't seen him. Clemson's top 2 running backs. I'm not making this up. Clemson's top 2 running backs are a wide receiver, Adam Randall. They converted him from wide receiver to running back because they don't have any. And he runs like a wide receiver, straight up and down. And when he gets a hole or gets into space, he's pretty good, because that's his comfort zone as a wide receiver. He becomes a wide receiver at that point. He's not a good running back. He's good at running with the ball in his hand, yards after catch. He's that. He's not a good running back. He's their leading running back. A wide receiver. Their number 2 running back is Peter Woods. Yeah, that Peter Wood, NFL defensive tackle, or will be. He's their short yardage back. What in the world are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? I made the DEI joke yesterday. Boy, people lost their mind about that. Look, I did not mean that in a political way. I'm not even trying to get political. People have been joking about Clemson about having a roster full of white people forever. All Dabo's kids are on there. All Brent Venable's kids were on there. All of Kirk Herbstreit's kids are on the team. One of their best players, that Will Helt, he's a white guy. I'm just pointing out the obvious, that there's an unusually large number of white people on Clemson's team. So I called Clemson the DEI. A DEI college. Those of y'all, boy, some of y'all get so mad about the dumbest shit. I'm telling you, so mad about just the dumbest shit. So I'm not even going to make any DEI jokes right now. But Clemson is absolutely horrific. 34-21, they got destroyed by Syracuse. Syracuse was the better team from the first whistle to the end of the game. Again, this wasn't a fluke situation here. Syracuse beat them and earned this win, 34-21. Cade Klubnik, 37 of 60. Unbelievable. 60 pass attempts, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Clemson even had 140 yards running the ball. Syracuse, 278 pass yards, 157 rushing yards. Clemson dominated on the stat sheet, but they'd have 2 or 3 good plays and then shoot themselves in the foot. They're not. Look, this is where I tell you it's a bigger problem than I thought. Yes. When they play elite teams, they're at a disadvantage because they're not using the portal like they should. But against Syracuse, they got out-coached. They got out-efforted. Syracuse tried harder. They hustled. They were the grittier, more physical team. These are things that you can control regardless of your talent level. And Clemson doesn't have them right now. It's alarming. And I've been predicting this about Clemson for 3 years. You check the record. Pete gets mad at me because I've been saying 3 years, downward trend. Check the wins and losses, downward trend. You know what the problem is? This is one of the problems. And when we went to the 12-team playoff, and then Clemson, even though they weren't very good last year, backdoors their way in by beating SMU on a last-minute field goal in the ACC championship game, so they have to get in because you have the guaranteed spot now as an ACC champion. That masked, I think, a lot of Clemson's issues. It made a lot of people look past the obvious issues because you go, well, we made the playoffs. Buddy, you weren't very good. Yeah, Georgia blew you out last year. You then lost to South Carolina at the end of the year. You lost to Louisville. You barely beat SMU in the ACC championship game. And then you lost in the first round to Texas in the playoffs. A playoff that you never would have been in any other year in the history of college football, except last year, because they went to 12 teams and you backed into the ACC championship and beat SMU on a last-second field goal. You weren't a better team last year necessarily than you were the year before. But the year before, there was a 4-team playoff. And this year it was 12. And that made it seem to some people as, oh, Clemson's not that bad. They made the playoffs again last year. No. Last year was worse than the year before. This year is worse than last year. And so even though I've been predicting this for Clemson, this because I've been talking about this downward trend at Clemson for 3 years now. Even though I predicted it, I still can't believe how bad it is when I'm watching the games on TV. All week, people said, Clemson upset alert. Syracuse coming here and beat them. They couldn't even beat Georgia Tech. I said, yeah, it would be funny if Clemson lost at home to Syracuse, but Clemson ain't losing at home to Syracuse. No, I didn't bet on Clemson. I didn't bet on Syracuse either, but I didn't bet on Clemson. It's not like I thought Clemson would blow them out, but I'm like, yeah, it would be funny, but it's not going to happen. Well, it happened. They got whipped. And I told you people are comparing Dabo to Mike Gundy. I do think Dabo cares. I do think Dabo wants to be a coach. I do think Dabo wants to win, and it's important to him. I just think he did it a certain way a decade ago, and it worked. And he's like, I'm not going to change. It'll work again. No, it won't. It's not working. It's not working. I've used this example in other situations. I'll do it again. Nick Saban, the greatest coach in the history of college football, won all kinds of natties. And then in 2015, he woke up one morning, he looked around and he went, wow, the world of college football is changing around me. It's becoming more offensive in nature. They're allowing these RPOs, whereas before they didn't. Offensive linemen typically can't go downfield on a passing play. That's a key to a defense. That's one of the ways defense is key on plays. Is the offensive lineman going downfield or are they backing up the pass block, right? Well, with the advent of the RPO, offensive linemen can now go like there's a window, there's a cushion there, 2-3 yards downfield. Anyway, they made a lot of changes to the rules of college football in the mid-2010s. Targeting became a thing, which made it easier for wide receivers. You can't even look at the quarterback anymore, or it's roughing the passer. Things started to open up in college football that made it more of an offensive sport in the mid-2010s. And Saban, of course, one of the most conservative coaches ever, defensive guy. If he had his way, he'd win every game he ever coached, 13-9 or something, right? And he won a lot of natties that way. He was the best coach in football in 2015. He woke up and looked around and went, wow, college football is changing around me. I can either keep doing what I've been doing and start losing, or I can evolve and adapt. And that's what he did. And he went out and he hired Lane Kiffin, and he let Lane Kiffin completely change that offense around, and the rest was history. He remained dominant from 2015 up to the day he retired because he was smart enough to see that the college football world he was living in was changing around him. And he swallowed his own pride in terms of the way he liked to do things, even though he had won multiple national titles doing it that way, and said, okay, I'm willing to change and adapt my mindset and my philosophy so that we can keep winning. Dabo is not willing to do that. And you're going to see more of what you saw yesterday, not less, out of Clemson. And Dabo made it very clear this past week that he's got no interest in leaving Clemson. He's nowhere near done coaching. I don't think Clemson will fire him. So you're pretty much stuck right now as a Clemson fan, unless Dabo has some massive change of heart. The Clemson you're seeing right now is the Clemson that you are going to see for the remainder of Dabo's career at Clemson. Clemson, your season is over for real. For real. Not just this, like in this video. Your season's actually over, my guy. Nebraska. I bought it. I bought in. Not to the playoff hype. I'm not nearly as dumb as Josh Pate. I mean, I bought in that Nebraska was going to win this game at home yesterday. Nebraska has lost heading into yesterday's game 27 games in a row to ranked teams. That is probably the most mind-boggling stat in all of college football. Well, now it's 28 because they lost again. They lost again. They tried hard. It was a fun game to watch. It was a great atmosphere. Dylan Raiola played okay at times. They lost. That's it. They lost again. That's it. That's the story. They lost again. Matt Rule, year 3. They lost. They lost. Again, 28 in a row they have lost to ranked team. You would think that in 28 opportunities, you would just have enough dumb luck to accidentally win one. You have to almost be trying to lose. 28 in a row? It's not like all 28 of those were top 5 teams. There was some 22s in there. There were some 25s in there. There was some 15s in there. 28 in a row to ranked teams. Mind-numbing. Mind-numbing. 30-27, Nebraska goes down to Michigan. And look, honestly, like, okay, the Texas Tech-Utah game, final score 34-10. And I told you, I said, I watched that game. It felt closer than that, right? Texas Tech ran away in the end. They scored 24 unanswered at the end of the game, the fourth quarter, and it made it look worse than it was. It was a competitive game for 3 quarters. This is the opposite. This is a 3-point game on the scoreboard. There wasn't a single point I was watching this game yesterday where I went, wow, Nebraska looks like the better team. No, they weren't the better team. They didn't look like the better team. They scored on a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. That's 7 of their points right there. Look, that counts. I'm not taking away from that. There's some skill involved in Hail Marys. I guess teams practice them. But there's a whole lot of luck involved too. But so I'm not taking away and say, oh, like somehow that score doesn't count. But it's a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. That's one of your touchdowns there. That's just worth pointing out. 30-27, Nebraska falls to Michigan. Nebraska now 28 straight losses to ranked teams. Unbelievable. Dylan Raiola, 30 of 41, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That's a pretty good stat line. Dylan Raiola's catching a lot of shit from all corners of the earth. Some of it very well deserved. He brings a lot of it on himself with the whole baby Mahomes bullshit. And some of the dumb shit he does and says. So I'm not going to come on here and defend Raiola on that. But he did play pretty good yesterday. 30 of 41, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. But they only had 43 yards rushing. You can't win big games being that one-dimensional. This Auburn, look, Auburn the same way. Auburn is the same thing. You've got to be able to run the ball and you got to be able to throw the ball. Yeah, you can beat low-level teams doing one or the other, maybe. But you play a legitimate team, especially someone like Michigan, their defense is really good. You can't run the ball at all. You're just not likely to win. 43 yards rushing, sacked 7 times, Dylan Raiola was. Bryce Underwear, terrible again. He's a freshman, I know. I'm just telling you, I'm just telling you he wasn't good yesterday. Michigan won the game. That should be more important to you, but Bryce Underwear didn't play good. On the road yesterday, Bryce Underwear, 12 of 22 for 105 yards. Now, he didn't turn the ball over, no touchdowns and no interceptions, but Michigan ran the ball. You ready for this? 290 yards. Justice Haynes is the best running back in football. I don't know how Alabama let him get away. How are they playing J.M. Miller ahead of him? I know teams rotate running backs in, and there's not really a starting running back anymore, but they should have done whatever they needed to do to hang on to that guy. Holy shit. He's unbelievably good, Justice Haynes. And he ran all over Nebraska. The other guy, Marshall, had a long touchdown run too for Michigan, so it wasn't just Justice Haynes, but each team had 1 turnover. It was an entertaining game, and it came down to the end. But again, just like with Auburn and but the referees, blah, blah, blah. Auburn has a loss in the L column. Nebraska has a loss. That's just what it is. They lost at home. It's another loss to a ranked team. It's a Big Ten loss. It's a bad loss because they had opportunities. They were close enough to where if a few other things go their way, maybe they win the game. And it didn't. It's a bad loss. It's a bad loss, in my opinion. You had to have that one at home early in the year. You got tough games coming up. I don't see a path to Nebraska for the playoffs right now. I don't think they're a good enough team given the schedule they play to get there. Now, I have not added them to my playoff eliminator, which I'll get to in a second, because I do think the Big Ten will get 3 or 4 teams in. And as long as you only have one loss, I'm not going to write you off on there from the Big Ten. So, but they don't look like a playoff team to me. I watched them play Cincinnati and wasn't impressed. They looked a little better yesterday, but 28 in a row to ranked teams. What are we doing? What are we doing? Again, you'd think you'd luck into a win. Nebraska, your season is over. South Carolina, Lenore Sellers played, but they lost. But I thought they might get blown out on the road at Missouri. You know, Vandy took them to the woodshed last week. Was it 34-7? Lenore Sellers got hurt. Lenore Sellers don't play defense. And Vandy whipped your ass at home last week in Columbia, South Carolina at night. Completely destroyed South Carolina. Then South Carolina had to turn around, go on the road to Columbia, Missouri, and play a red-hot Missouri team who's had one of the best offenses in the country through the first few weeks of the year. And they lost, but they played better than I thought they would. They lost 29-20. Sellers did play. He was 18 of 28 for 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Great stat line. Here's the problem. And this has been – I've had a couple of concerns about South Carolina. And what I'm about to get into was one of them. But the concerns I had about South Carolina was, for one, their schedule. They've got a 4-game stretch coming up that's insane. Oklahoma, LSU, Bama, and Ole Miss, I think. 4 games in a row. Then they have a bye week. Then they play Texas A&M. It's brutal. So that was a concern. I had a concern about their ability to run the ball. Anyway, and the other thing is, the reason we all love Lenore Sellers so much, the reason he's so much fun to watch, the reason he was mentioned in some Heisman talk in the offseason, the reason why his name has been attached to potentially the number 1 draft pick in the NFL draft next year is because of his ability to make things happen with his legs, extend plays, scramble, run, highlight reel plays. Just go back and watch the Clemson game from last year, the South Carolina Clemson game, the ability to basically win the game by himself. So yesterday against Missouri, you look at his stat. He had a good stat line. These are good throwing numbers here for Lenore Sellers. Where'd they go again? 18 of 28, 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Negative 28 rushing yards. Negative 28 rushing yards. And here's the thing with South Carolina. Do they have some talented players? Yes. I like Lenore Sellers. I like Nick Harbor. I like Dylan Stewart on the edge defensively. They do not have one of these rosters that's just loaded with talent where you go, well, if Lenore Sellers ain't going to do it, this guy will do it. And if that guy ain't going to do it, that guy will do it. They don't have that. They don't have that. To win a big game like this on the road, Lenore Sellers has to have one of those Superman games, and he didn't have it. He threw the ball well, 300 yards, touchdowns, no interception, but he didn't have any of those runs that you see on SportsCenter. South Carolina as a team, this is one of the most embarrassing things you'll ever see. They had negative 9 yards rushing for the entire game. You don't deserve to win a football game. We're over here laughing at teams earlier that ran for 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards. South Carolina had negative 9 yards rushing for the entire game. I mean, come on. What are we doing? That's embarrassing. Check your manhood. Check your manhood. You're not going to run for 200 yards on everybody you play. I know. I get it. Negative, though? Negative 9 for the entire game. Where's your manhood at? It's got me questioning the manhood of South Carolina now. This is bad. And check your schedule. It gets worse. South Carolina's probably not making a bowl game. In fact, they're not making a bowl game. This is going to be one of the worst seasons South Carolina's had in a while. Shane Beamer's done some good things there, exceeded expectations multiple times there. You know, these win totals will come out in the offseason, and they'll have South Carolina at 5 or 6. You look up at the end of the year, they're winning 8 or 9 games. Last year, 9-3 in the regular season. That ain't happening this year. You might win 4 games this year. I'm dead serious. You look at their schedule, it's brutal. Now, Clemson's not any good, so maybe you steal one there like you did last year. But that 5 games, you do get a bye week, but it's Oklahoma, Bama, LSU, and I think Ole Miss all in a row without a bye week. Then a bye week, then Texas A&M. They're not beating any of them teams. That looks like 5 more losses to Uncle Lou, which would put you at 7 losses. I tell you. It's going to be a forgettable season for South Carolina. Is Shane Beamer taking a Virginia Tech job? I know he's got the connection there because his dad was there forever. I know, but hell, he's at South Carolina. Shane Beamer was back in like 2007, 2008, 2009. He kind of got his start at South Carolina, then left other places and back as the head coach. I'd have to question somebody's sanity if they left an SEC job for an ACC job. I'd have to question his sanity. But I'm hearing a lot of rumors. And if South Carolina tanks this year, those rumors are probably going to heat up. But there you go. That's your season is over list. South Carolina, your season is over. Unfortunately, it's really over too, not just the kidding kind. All right. LSU finally scored some points on offense yesterday. They put up 56 against Southeast Louisiana. I'll say this about Nussmeier. He stopped telling us Nussmeier is injured. He's not injured. Well, it just came out last week he's been battling through an injury. No, that's a lie. He's not injured. He's not battling through an injury. He might be hurt, but he's not. He doesn't have an injury. And thousands of college football players are hurt, and they play every Saturday. If Nussmeier was injured, he wouldn't be playing, especially against Southeast Louisiana when you look at what y'all have got coming up, Ole Miss, and then the rest of your SEC slate. If he was truly injured, he wouldn't have played yesterday. So no, he's not battling through an injury. I don't buy it. It's bullshit to cover up for the fact that LSU hasn't had an offense at all through the first 3 weeks of the season. That's what it is. It's bullshit. He's not injured. He might be hurting somewhere, but again, thousands of college football players are hurting somewhere, and they're playing at a high level. If you're injured, you don't play. If you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you can't. He's not injured. Okay? We're not buying it. If he was injured, he wouldn't have played yesterday against Southeast Louisiana. Y'all scored 56 points. Congratulations. You only ran the ball for 135 yards, though. And that's what Brian Kelly went off the reporter for last week. How come you can't run the ball? Oh, we won the game. We beat Florida. Ah! Hey, guess what? You didn't run the ball again against Southeast Louisiana, 135 yards rushing. Do better, corn dog. You're going to start dropping in these rankings. LSU is the poster child right now for why the fuck are you ranked this high in every ranking, including my own. I don't have to back them up. LSU shouldn't be ahead of any of these teams, should they? They shouldn't be ahead of Georgia, Penn State, Florida State, Oklahoma. Should they be behind Tennessee? Should they be behind Texas A&M? They beat Texas A&M. I mean, how far down should LSU be? I had them at 4. Am I mentally retarded? I'm moving them down. They're not a top 4 team. Sorry, corn dog, man. Do better. What do you want me to do? Beat Ole Miss next week and score more than 20 points. How about that? Can you do that? We'll see. Oregon won again, 41-7 over Oregon State. Oregon State is horrific. They're 0-4. They're 0-4. And then Washington State lost to Washington 59-24. Getting left behind ruined Oregon State and Washington State. They're terrible teams and terrible programs now. They got left in the dust when the Pac-12 collapsed. Nobody wanted them, and now they're absolutely horrific. No one cares about anything Oregon does. They played absolutely nobody. But everybody will be paying attention to Oregon next week and Penn State because they play. So you got a lot of people going, oh, Oregon's beating everybody 100 up, but they ain't played nobody. Did Penn State go, why is Penn State ranked so high? They're not any good. They're overrated. Well, we'll find out next week. Either Oregon or Penn State's going to be in the top 3, and one of them will move down. I mean, that's what's going to happen. The winner will be in the top 3. The loser will move down. So a lot of these things, like normal, will work themselves out. Don't get all bent out of shape. Florida State 66-10 over Kent State. Pat you on your little peanut head there. Congrats, Uncle Lou's so proud of you. I'm so fucking proud of you. Bunch of babies, Florida State fans. Tell us how good we are. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. What am I looking for? Those aren't the droids. Oh, Texas, 55-0. Arch Manning, what the fuck is wrong with you? Please tell me y'all saw the clip. I'm not going to play it, but please tell me y'all saw the clip. So Arch Manning, okay, well, Texas won 55-0. Congratulations. Arch Manning was 18 of 24, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Great. There's a clip going around. Arch Manning scores on like a 4-yard touchdown run. He didn't even run anybody over. He does like kind of a little spin thing at the goal line and scores. Now, keep in mind, they played Sam Houston. Sam Houston is winless. They're now 0-4 or whatever. They're terrible. So they're beating the shit out of this Sam Houston team, who's terrible, 0-4. Arch Manning has a 4-yard touchdown run, not 40, not 75, a 4-yard touchdown run. Doesn't run anybody over, doesn't even break any tackles, just does like this kind of spin, almost like a pirouette-looking ballet deal into the end zone. And there was a Sam Houston player kind of near him. He scores. He then turns around and looks down at the Sam Houston State player and starts like getting in his face and running his, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? You're getting booed at home last week for 10 straight incompletions. You've looked like dog shit the entire season. And then you come out here and start talking shit to a Sam Houston player. Bring that shit to Athens, dumbass. What is wrong with you? I'm serious. And I defended you against some criticism. Oh, he's overrated, this and that. I mean, that wasn't Arch Manning's fault. He doesn't rate himself. But that was a bad look yesterday, young man. What are you doing? Bring that dumb shit to Athens. Hell, bring that dumb shit to LuTube. Talking shit to a Sam Houston player. Man, what are you doing? Come, Arch, you know that word. That was unnecessary, man. What are you doing? Come on, man. I'm being for real. What are you doing? Let's see. Ole Miss beat the soul out of Tulane. How about this backup quarterback for Ole Miss? This Trinidad Chambliss. I know what you're thinking. I never heard of this guy. No one heard of him. So Austin Simmons was the starting quarterback for Ole Miss this season. He got hurt last week. They put the backup in, this Trinidad Chambliss, and he played great, and they won. And then this week he got the start. And he did the same thing. He had 307 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he ran for 100 yards. I mean, the guy's a human highlight reel. I never heard of him, Trinidad Chambliss. Don't remember hearing about him like during like recruiting talk out of high school. Like, never heard of the guy. So I'm thinking he must be some like true freshman diamond in the rough Lane Kiffin grabbed out of high school and has picked up the offense and is having a good year in a Lane Kiffin system, right? No, this guy's a senior. This guy has been playing Division III football at something called Ferris Bueller State. How does Lane Kiffin do it? There are probably 100, I'm not exaggerating, there are probably 100 teams in the FBS. There's 140 FBS teams. There's at least 100 where Trinidad Chambliss would start today. How does that happen? First of all, Austin Simmons was off to a great start this year. He gets hurt. They put this guy, literally nobody heard of this guy. He was seriously at a Division III school, Ferris State or something. And I'm looking around at Arch Manning and Nussmeier and Klubnik at Clemson and just go around the country, whatever garbage can quarterback. And Lane Kiffin's got them stockpiled at Ole Miss, and he's finding them from Division III schools. Holy shit, that guy is good. Georgia Tech beat Temple 45-24. I'm impressed by that. I thought Georgia Tech may play a sluggish game after that win against Clemson last week, you know. But I know it's Temple and it's terrible, but a lot of times when schools like Georgia Tech, and you can take that any way you want, have a huge win like that at home, you get kind of a hangover effect into the next week. I didn't see any of that from Georgia Tech. 45-24, they took care of business. Vandy put up 70 on Georgia State. Notre Dame finally won a game. Unbelievable. Their defense is still ridiculously bad. They gave up 30 points to Purdue. That's hard to do. But they beat them 56-30, so Notre Dame finally has a win. Yeah, they finally have a win. Purdue only scored 17 against Southern Cal last week. And you know how bad Southern Cal's defense is. Purdue only scored 17 points against Southern Cal. They scored 30 against Notre Dame. Is Notre Dame going to have a worse defense than Southern Cal? God, that would be embarrassing. Tennessee scored 56 yesterday. They gave up 24 points, though, to UAB. UAB had 364 yards passing. Southern Cal beat Michigan State 45-31. That game came on at 11 o'clock last night. I said, you know what? Whatever. I'll stay up and watch some of this so I can, These people are telling me Southern Cal is finally going to have a good defense. No, they don't. No, they don't. 6-7 minutes into the game, Michigan State hits this long touchdown pass. There wasn't a Southern Cal defensive back anywhere in sight. Same old Lincoln Riley defense. I mean, they got the win against a bad Michigan State team, but they gave up 31 points. This was a home game for Southern Cal, by the way. They gave up 31 points, won 45-31, didn't even cover the spread. I bet Michigan State, though. I knew they weren't going to cover the spread. They got no defense again. Unbelievable for Southern Cal. Virginia Tech finally won a game. Now they fired their coach. Colorado, I mentioned in the cold open, they beat Wyoming 37-20. Caden Salter back in at quarterback for Colorado. So they've been switching their quarterbacks around because Deion doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Went with Caden Salter this week and somehow managed to get the win in that. Yes, they did. Louis LV beat Miami of Ohio because, of course, they did. Dan Mullen now 4-0. Billy Napier 1-3. Mississippi State found a way to beat Northern Illinois, giant killing Northern Illinois, same Northern Illinois that beat Notre Dame last year, 38-10. Mississippi State's now 4-0. Now, they're going to lose some games. I'm not trying to convince you they're going to the playoffs or whatever. But Mississippi State's win total this season was like 4.5 or 5. Like, they only have to win one more game, like, to win more games than everybody thought they would. So, shout out to Mississippi State. Not a shout out to these teams, though. Baylor lost again. Damn. 27-24 to Arizona State. Game-winning field goal for Arizona State. That was an exciting game, though. Came down to the end. West Virginia, big win last week at home against rival Pitt. Goes on the road to Kansas. Gets destroyed, 41-10. Rich Rodriguez not off to a good start outside of that Pitt win. He's got absolutely nothing to rest his hat on there. They got blown out by Kansas. Cal lost to San Diego State 34-0. I'm glad Cal lost. People kept asking me last week, is Cal's going undefeated? Have you seen their schedule? Cal's not any good. What does their schedule matter? Yeah, well, y'all look silly as shit now. They got blown out by San Diego State 34-0. Who cares how easy their schedule looks? They're dog shit, my guy. They're not too much of dog shit to beat a Big Ten team, though. Cal beat Minnesota 27-14. Boy, the Big Ten is bad. Just kidding. Calm down. They did beat Minnesota, though. Yeah. North Carolina lost to Central Florida. What game wasn't even close. SMU lost to TCU 35-24. SMU. You're teetering, bud. The SMU's got 2 losses, but none of them are conference losses. It's a weird thing. So they don't look very good. But since they don't have any conference losses, I didn't add them to the playoff eliminator because, you know, somebody's got to get in there through the ACC. So left them on there. All right. Here we go. We're winding up now. Here's the Heisman list. John Mateer, he didn't have his best game yesterday, but played well enough to win. And made the plays when they needed to. I've got John Mateer on my Heisman list. I've now got Mendoza, the quarterback for Indiana, on my Heisman list. Justice Haynes is on my Heisman list. 537 yards rushing so far, 8.1 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns. That's 3rd in America in rush yards. He's 3rd in the country in rush yards with 537. And Ahmad Hardy, the running back for Missouri. I've been talking about him for a couple of weeks. I'm adding him to my Heisman list. Ahmad Hardy has 600 yards rushing, more than Justice Haynes, 6 touchdowns, 7.6 yards a carry. He's 2nd in the country in rushing. So, well, Lou, who's 1st in the country? The running back for UTSA. And he's not winning the Heisman, so he's not on this list. So there you go. Paper plate special is Dabo, specifically Dabo, Clemson in general. Horrible timing. Dabo, for no reason, comes out and does that press thing on Tuesday. No one asked him a question that precipitated that response. He just walked into the room and said all that. Y'all, I don't know why y'all hate me. Y'all must just hate winning. All I do is win. I win. We've been winning here for 15 years. I'm not quitting. I'm not going anywhere. I'm the greatest. Y'all suck. You need to worship me, blah, 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 blah. Then you go out on Saturday and get your ass beat by Syracuse. Paper plate special, my man. You pushed it out onto the 50-yard line and dropped a ruddy one right in the middle of the stadium. Good job, Dabo. The We're Back list. Miami, number 1. No surprise. They might actually be back after this year. They could win something. The ACC, a playoff game, something, and get off the list. Texas A&M at 2. Tennessee at 3. That's the same as last week, by the way. And then I swapped Auburn and Nebraska. Even though Auburn lost, I moved them up ahead of Nebraska. I've got Auburn at 4, Nebraska at 5, and, of course, Florida pulling up the rear. They're never getting off of this list. They're at 6. Best wins I saw this weekend. You got to give Indiana credit. I don't like Indiana. I don't like Cignetti. I want them to lose every game they play, but they're really good. They destroyed Illinois in embarrassing fashion. An impressive win. Texas Tech. I'm giving Texas Tech some credit. I thought it was a sloppy game. It wasn't a well-played game, but I was impressed that Texas Tech was able to handle Utah along the lines of scrimmage specifically and get a big win on the road. Michigan. No room for error after losing earlier in the season on the road at Oklahoma. Finds a way to go on the road and beat Nebraska. Didn't look great. We'll see what happens with Bryce Underwood. He's got a long way to go, but they got the win. And I thought about putting Oklahoma on my list of best wins, but because they cheated on purpose and got away with it, I'm not putting them on my list of best wins. Sorry. Playoff eliminator. These teams are eliminated from the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. Not mathematically, if they do this and win that and this team loses. These teams aren't making the playoffs, according to Uncle Lou. Now, there's hundreds of teams that aren't making the playoffs. I'm talking specifically about teams that were highly ranked in the preseason or teams that people were talking about in the offseason that could potentially make the playoff. So I'm not going to put, for example, Cincinnati on my playoff eliminator list. Nobody thought Cincinnati was going to the playoffs to begin with. So who's on it? Clemson. They're eliminated. Clemson was ranked 4th in the preseason AP poll. 4th. Eliminated. Notre Dame was ranked 6th in the preseason AP poll. Eliminated. Not making the playoffs, according to me. Florida was ranked 15th in the AP preseason poll. Not making the playoffs. You're eliminated. South Carolina was ranked 13th in the AP preseason poll. Eliminated, not making the playoffs. And Kansas State was ranked 17th in the preseason AP poll and top 10 in the Uncle Lou poll. No, 11 or 12 in the Uncle Lou poll. And they're dog shit. They're not making the playoffs. Those are the teams I have officially eliminated from the playoffs. We'll add to that list every week. Juice Poot, boy. Juice Poot. He's going to spend an inordinate amount of time tonight hugging Auburn fans and Nebraska fans. He's going to even go so far as to try to convince you that Jackson Arnold has potential. Did you see the throws to Cam Coleman? That's what they've been needing. Yeah, they've been needing it. Jackson Arnold can't do it. Closing your eyes and throwing the ball up in the air twice a game is not a game plan. It's a hope and a prayer. And it'll have about the same impact as hopes and prayers or thoughts and prayers. None. 0. In Nebraska, lost to Michigan, their first loss of the year. He, of course, had Nebraska as a playoff team because he's functionally retarded. So he'll have to come on here and tell you that, Nebraska can still do this and still do that and still got the big game with Southern Cal or whatever. No. Dog shit, my man. Dog shit. All right, there you go. The Your Season is Over video. Week 4, 2025 edition. Big games next week. Big games next week. Have a great day.